would you describe yourself as polyamorous?
So I wouldn't actually describe myself as polyamorous. So I like to describe myself as ethically non-monogamous, and I will explain what that means. Because so basically, the umbrella of non-monogamy covers a lot of things. Like it even covers things like cheating, threesomes. It covers, you know, when you have a roster, all of these things that a lot of people don't consider non-monogamous. But basically, monogamy is if you have one partner or you're married to one person. Anything outside of that is non-monogamy. So being ethically non-monogamous means that when I'm non-monogamous, I'm upfront with everyone. Everyone I know, I'm like, look, I have partners. You think this is how I move, this is how I operate. If you're interested, please be on this journey with me. And then I'll tell my other partners, met someone new. Look at this person, you know. And it's kind of like a conversation throughout everyone.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Only Feelings Are Real. We are back today with a very exciting episode. Only Feelings Are Real is a series by Kai Collective of conversations centered around the human experience and human relationships. I'm really excited for this conversation today. I have Kinza here with me.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming, Kinza. It is so good to be speaking to you. Today, we are discussing non-monogamous romantic relationship structures. I really do not know much about this, so I'm so excited to just listen and learn from you, and I think it's going to be amazing. So before we get into it, I'm just going to introduce myself. So I am Fisaya Longe, the founder and CEO of Kai Collective, a women's wear brand based in London, intentionally crafted to make women feel like their most confident selves. Tell us about yourself, Kinza.
Hi, I am Kinza, 29. I am pansexual and genderqueer, and I'm adopted, and I've literally just never fit into any box that has been presented to me. And I decided, why pick a struggle when I can have all of them? But that's basically the story of my life. I've lived on 3 continents. I love to travel. I love having an adventure, and I just love being part of a wider community of Black people and just, you know, being out here and just seeing the world, really.
So today we're exploring love, non-monogamous relationship structures. So let's start with, what does love mean to you?
Oh, okay. So what love means to me, and this may sound a little soppy, but I think love is a series of actions. It is about being consistent. It's about trust, communication. It's about intimacy. And I feel like without those things, it's not really love to me. It has to have all these little extra things. And then to me, it's like a love salad, so to speak. It's with all these things, and then it's love.
And then polyamory, which would you describe yourself as polyamorous?
So I wouldn't actually describe myself as polyamorous. So I like to describe myself as ethically non-monogamous, and I will explain what that means. Because so basically, the umbrella of non-monogamy covers a lot of things. Like it even covers things like cheating, threesomes. It covers, you know, when you have a roster, all of these things that a lot of people don't consider non-monogamous. But basically, monogamy is if you have one partner or you're married to one person. Anything outside of that is non-monogamy. So being ethically non-monogamous means that when I'm non-monogamous, I'm upfront with everyone. Everyone I know, I'm like, look, I have partners. You think this is how I move, this is how I operate. If you're interested, please be on this journey with me. And then I'll tell my other partners, met someone new. Look at this person, you know. And it's kind of like a conversation throughout everyone. Whereas I find with polyamory is basically you're in multiple relationships, and you're in multiple relationships with different people, which is, I do that, but it's just like, I'm someone who is romantically monogamous, so I can be in multiple relationships, but I can't be in love with more than one person at a time. And polyamory says you can be in love with multiple people, which I can't do. So I call myself ethically non-monogamous.
Okay. So is it, and I won't take offense, is it ignorant that I came into this conversation asking, what does polyamory mean to you, instead of just like, I didn't know there was any such thing as ethically monogamous.
No,
I mean, assumed you were polyamorous.
No, that's not, I feel like when it comes to the conversation of non-monogamy in general, it's still something that people are discovering, really. It's not a topic that gets talked about a lot, but it's coming more into the It's becoming more, I guess, popular as time has gone on, but I think it's an important conversation to have. But I also have this kind of theory that part of the reason I think that non-monogamy has kind of taken off as of late is because of capitalism and the fact that a lot of people just can't afford to, like, people want community, and capitalism is a very isolating system. And so people are finding, you know, if you're in love, you can just love multiple people, live with multiple people. It's just one of the ways people are finding community. It's my tinfoil hat theory, but that's the way I see it.
Very interesting. It sounds plausible.
You know, like, let's like, if we be for real for a minute, like, the way I see it, the way people move, especially because being ethically non-monogamous or being in that way, it requires a lot of maturity and a lot of communication and vulnerability, which when I first got into it was not expecting. So I feel like because of all of those things, it requires a lot of intimacy. And so when you're intimate with partners like that, it just kind of, it does feel like community in a way. It's almost like, because capitalism is a system that romantic relationships are the top tier. So in that way, people are mostly focused on romantic relationships over maintaining and growing friendships when you get to a certain age, because it's harder. So because people are so focused on romantic relationships, my theory is that it's just spread that out. Because, like, an apartment's a lot cheaper with 3 people in it. And it might work a lot better if you're all involved together, you know?
Fact. I do think, I look forward to the day where it is more commonplace for example, a woman to decide not to get married and just live with her friend or 2 friends or 3 friends and raise their children together. I think that would be so healthy. I would, when I think about childhood, I would have loved to grow up with, like, a group of women who raised me in a healthy way, and I saw, like, healthy friendships. So I look forward to things like that becoming more common.
Absolutely. I feel like as time goes on, I feel like people are starting to make collectives all the time on TikTok, especially. I'm seeing all these, like, black girl groups that are being created. Let's travel together. Let's do events together. And I feel like we're artificially inserting our own communities and building from that. And like you said, that sounds like an amazing experience. Like, I've talked about that with people, being like, let's buy a big plot of land. Your family's there. My family's there. And then meet in the middle and raise our kids and everything.
Yeah. Did you ever believe in monogamy?
Absolutely. I still believe in monogamy. I think people think because I'm outside of monogamy, I don't believe in it. I do. Non-monogamy is absolutely not for everyone. And I say that with my chest. It's very much for a specific few kind of people who can deal with that, because I get it's a lot. It's a lot. And I don't recommend it for a lot of people. But I do believe in monogamy. I've been in monogamous relationships. In fact, like, I was in a year-long monogamous relationship. It was after that I got out of that. I was just like, I want to try something different. I want to try something different. And then I was very much like, I'm just going to try it for a couple of months, see how this feels. And then it's been a couple of years now. And, you know, if it fits, it fits. But yeah, no, I definitely believe in monogamy. And I feel like there's definitely a reason that it's the default for a lot of people. I just like the fact that, you know, there are other options. If that's more your speed, do it. Because a lot of times I see a lot of people who are like, you know, they cheat and they do all this stuff. And I'm just like, you don't got to do all that. You know what I mean? There are ways you can move, get your needs met, and not feel like you are, like, you know, forced into the specific structure without harming and hurting other people.
So do you see yourself ever going back to monogamy?
That's an interesting question. As of right now, no. But also at the same time, I feel like non-monogamy can look very differently depending on how you do it. I feel like at some point I will move to a structure which is more focused on one person, and because I do want to get married to one person, you know what I mean, and all of that, and I would call that my primary partner. And like, when I've discussed this with my partner, you know, gotta make sure you're always on the same page. It's just like, yeah, we do that, and I'd spend what, 90 to 95% of all my energy on that one person, and then every so often I'm like, I'm gonna be back tomorrow. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way I see it, which is, again, unusual structure, but like, I've also talked about how maybe we would play with other people together or things like that. So there are ways to be, even when I'm feeling in a much more monogamous space, I like to keep it spicy. Okay.
So what are some of the benefits you've experienced practicing non-monogamy compared to when you were monogamous?
It requires a lot of you, because I think a lot of people are under the misconception that it's easier than monogamy, and it's absolutely
it doesn't
the opposite.
sound easier.
It's definitely the opposite, because it's basically because you're now balancing multiple relationships that can intertwine a bit as well. So it requires you to be. I had to learn how to be. My communication had to be at 11. I used to, at the beginning, I would get sick of how much I would have to talk through with my partners about things, like every single step. But I really enjoyed the fact that over time, it's made me be a healthier person. Like emotionally, it made me work through a lot of my stuff, know how to process my emotions, know how to verbalize them to my partners. Because the thing is, it's not, being non-monogamous is not a structure where you can just hold on to your feelings. You hold on to your feelings, it's gonna get ugly real fast. So you have to be able to be like, okay, hi, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I need from you. And like, for me, at the beginning, I was like, what is this? No, I'm not doing that. But it required me to be a very healthy individual. So I had to do a lot of like, even like therapy and things like that. So I'm like, in general, even if I went back to monogamy, I feel like I'm in a much better place than when I was before I started this.
Interesting. How many partners do you have at the moment?
I have 3 partners currently.
Okay. Would you have more?
I've contemplated it, because at this moment, all my partners are masculine and I would like some feminine energy, but there's a difference between when you date masculine people versus feminine people, especially when there's multiple, so it can be a little more tricky. But as of right now, I'm happy with my 3. But if that changes, I'll let you know.
So I'm curious about that. What have you dated feminine people? Because I was gonna say, what are the differences between you when you date multiple masculine people, and if you were to add a feminine person?
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's different. Absolutely, it's different. I would say dating feminine people it's harder than dating masculine people.
Tell me about that.
Don't come for me. If the internet comes for me. But not. It's just. I think in general, when it comes to feminine people, it's harder getting in the door, like getting through the first dates and all of that until it becomes something more. Well, as masculine people, and this is a blanket statement and it doesn't apply to everyone, but a lot of times they're just happy to have attention. They're like, hi, and I'm like, hello, okay? They will do the work.
Okay, so men are easy, basically.
Literally, sometimes I'll be in a bad mood and I'm just sitting there. Does that stop 3 guys from coming up to talk to me? No, it does not. So like, there's never a shortage of that. But I feel like another thing that I have found with being non-monogamous is that it made me incredibly picky, which I wasn't expecting, but because the structure of it is everyone I am with, I also have to vet with my partners. My partners have to be like, you're in a good, healthy place as well. Because what happens with me and one partner is gonna affect my other relationships. So if they see me moving weird with a partner, they're like, what is going on? You know what I mean? So I am accountable not just for myself, but for the people I bring into my non-monogamous structure. So it requires me to be like, I don't think you can hack it. You know, I'm just like, I don't think you're here for the right reason. I have to really be picky, which is, you know, you would think being non-monogamous, I'd be having a lot more sex, but no, I've actually having less.
Interesting. So what is it, so why? You know, like what are the benefits for you?
Okay, I feel like at the beginning, it was very much like I was going through a hoe phase. I was just like, I
love the honesty.
I'm going to be real honest. And I was just like, I had a roster, things were going well. And then I met someone and we kind of like, it was very intense and it was like a whirlwind romance. And we were just like, this is great, but this is really the wrong time for this to happen. So we decided we're gonna go ahead because we don't want to miss the opportunity of, you know, this love, but we also are gonna keep it open for us to be able to see other people at the same time, which is kind of like how I got into it. But I think, like I said, when I first started, I thought I'd do it for a couple months and then I go back to monogamy. It just didn't fit anymore, being monogamous. And I was just like, maybe at some point, but then time went on. And then I got a partner, and then I told them about what I was on, and they're like, cool, I'm on that too. I was like, cool. And then I got another partner, and then they got a partner, and then everyone's having partners. I'm just like, well, this is working. This is working, so I'm going to stick with it. And being monogamous doesn't fit who I am at this moment. Okay, so is it about so when we talk about the benefits of your non-monogamous relationship over maybe monogamous relationships you've experienced in the past, from what you've said, I take freedom. Yeah, so I feel like also like people think also because non-monogamy doesn't require commitment. I'm committed to all my partners, but I do enjoy having the kind of freedom, not just to get other romantic partners, but it's also allowed me to create a lot deeper and intimate friendships, because especially with more masculine people, because growing up, it was always just like, you know, these are the boundaries you need to have in a monogamous relationship with someone of the, you know, opposite sex and everything like that. Without that barrier, like I can get real close. You know, I got one friend, we just like cuddle buddies, man. And he's just like, he's great. He's like, whenever I'm depressed, he's like, let me take you out for some food. And I'm just like, thank you. So I'm just like, it has really allowed me to learn how to have intimacy even outside of sex, which I've really appreciated, and it's allowed me to have a lot more male friends as well, which I wouldn't have done before. So
what are some of the challenges?
The challenges? When things go awry, it's kind of a bit of a domino effect. So if, like recently I had some issues, I was going through a little bout of depression, and then one of my partners, it wasn't going well, and I was like, and then so obviously I'm gonna be venting to my other partner, like this, but then if that person's going through something, then I'm like, oh, well, I can't talk to this person, I can't talk to that one. Then I'm like, I'm feeling very alone, and I'm feeling very pushed out, and so the challenges is like, as much as you can do everything right, you are still human. You are gonna fuck up, and it can just be like, yeah, the fallout can be worse than if you were just monogamous. So I went through this one period where I had a full, like I had 4 partners at the time. And then it was like slowly over like a period of 3 months, it was just like, people just started dropping off, and I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? Because like, and sometimes you're not the problem.
Yeah.
I've had a situation where one of my partners with their partner, they were doing a madness, and then I was collateral in that situation. So I was getting bad attitude, and I'm just like, this is not about me. This is not for me. Like, you keep your shit over there, not on me. So sometimes that you can be a little collateral in other people's issues. Yeah. So that is one of the downsides of it. Okay, so in your relationships at the moment, because I assume even though you're non-monogamous, people can still cheat. So like there are Absolutely. Boundaries. So what does cheating look like like you have 4 partners? Yeah.
If you were to cheat, what does that look like? Does that make sense?
No, that makes absolute sense, because this is something I discussed. I recently talked to a partner, because I was like, what would you do if I cheated on you? They're like, can you explain what that structure would look like? But basically, when it comes to cheating, at the heart of it, it's about betrayal. So it's about betraying trust. And because the thing is, to a certain extent, you know, it's about the lying and the way you're moving. So I can cheat on a partner, say, if I didn't tell them I'm seeing someone else. That's still cheating, because part of the ethical part of it is that everyone's communicating, everyone knows what's up, and so we can move accordingly. So if I'm holding back stuff like that, they're gonna be like, what the fuck? What are you doing? What are you doing? You know what I mean? So that would be a form of cheating. Sometimes you don't even need to be having sex with someone to be cheating. It's just you need to just betray their trust, basically. So it's really about betrayal. So I just like to keep things up on that. And so when Odyssey is staying with you for 2 months, what does your relationship with 11 feel like? Honestly, it's like very natural, because so basically Odyssey also has another partner. Okay. So like, it's very much just like, we're still talking. Like sometimes I'd be like busy, like my hands are busy. I'm just like, I'd see 11 call. I'm like, yo, can you answer the phone for me? Okay. And they would talk for a couple of minutes. So they talk as well. So are do all your partners like each other? As of right now, yes. Okay. But we'll see how that goes in the future. Honestly, so I think very much the structure of the relationship is very much about focusing on each other's happiness, really. Like, as long as this person makes you happy and it's good and healthy, I'm good with it. But as soon as anything happens, my partners are very much quick to be like, yo, you know, what's going on here? Is this good for you? Are you happy with this? And it's like, you need to make some changes. And I'm always very receptive to that. I'm like, you right? You right? Because I did have to make some changes recently, and I'm just like, I feel like all my relationships benefited from that. But again, like I said, you have to be a very specific person to do this, because, you know, jealousy is real, okay? Yeah. Even within the structure, I won't lie, like, people do get jealous. Like, Do you get jealous? I have gotten jealous, okay. I know. And it's that used to shock me, because I'm very not a jealous person. Yeah. But I like to describe it as like, I'm not gonna get jealous of the fact that you have other partners, as long as those other partners are different from me. You know what I mean? So it's kind of
Okay,
like...
so the person has to be physically different, or...
Not physically, but basically it's just like the way the metaphor I use, I'm not even sure it's a good metaphor, but basically it's like if you tell me you go to this restaurant and I'm your favorite pasta dish, let's say it's a Alfredo pasta, right? And then I find out you go to a different restaurant and you're eating that Alfredo pasta. I thought I was the favorite Alfredo pasta.
So do you have to be the favorite?
No, I don't have to be the favorite of them all, but I have to be your favorite Alfredo. If she's your fettuccine, love it. Love that for you. But I'm your Alfredo. Remember that.
So do you have a favorite between Odyssey and 11?
I don't like to pick favorites. I feel like the way I like to say it is that everyone has a function. I'm not going to this partner for the same thing I'm going for this partner. Everyone is different. So in certain situations, I'm gonna be like, you're gonna be the favorite because you have all the qualities and everything I need for this. Whereas in a situation, I'm like, exactly, you're everything I need for this. So it's not so much that I have a favorite, it's more situational, and it's more just like, honestly, it's best not to. Because that's really a way to get into some toxic stuff. And I'm not saying you should do that, but you can use it as a way to dangle a carrot. I'm just like, well, you know, if you want to be my favorite, you can. So it can get into places where it's just like, you can get manipulative with it and it gets toxic. So it's generally best in the structure not to have a favorite. Now, personally, I'm not saying that people don't have favorites, and I'm not saying things, but I feel like in general, if you have a favorite, don't say it out loud. Okay. Just keep it to yourself. Just keep it to yourself.
Okay. So how do you prioritize time and attention among multiple partners? For example, when Odyssey was staying with you and 11 called, could you be on the phone to 11 for 3 hours?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I will say in general, you try to be respectful of the fact that, like, because again, because he was living with me, it did change the structure of how it worked. Because I'm used to obviously living alone. So I have like a loft apartment. The only place with a door is the bathroom, okay? So it's just like, it's open planning. So I think we got to this place where we're just comfortable. It's just like, look, I'm gonna be on the phone for a bit. Like sometimes I'm just gonna pop my headphones in. Sometimes it'd be like, they were busy with something else. I'm like, I'm just gonna talk to 11 for a bit. I just try to fit it around the structure of things that were happening in a way that wasn't, you know, too obtrusive. But I will say it does take some finagling and communication to be like, yo, does it make you uncomfortable when I do it like this? You know, is there a way that you would prefer? Would you prefer if I, you know, just went for a long walk and just was on the phone like that? You know what I mean? It's kind of just like you have a conversation about what makes each other more comfortable. But I found with my partners, they're not really the jealous type. They're very chill with each other.
This sounds so stressful. I'm not gonna lie. It sounds so difficult. I think maybe because I'm not are you a people person? Are you an extrovert?
I am an extrovert.
Okay, that must really help because this sounds like one of my worst nightmares. Like to have to deal with so many people intimately. But I guess it's kind of like dealing with friends.
Yeah, it can be very much like, I think, yeah, like I said, it's definitely not for everyone. I went on holiday recently with a friend. He's like, you're on the phone so much. Like how do you have that kind of energy? And I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like a year ago, when we were first all getting to know each other, I would be like 3 hours on the phone with Odyssey, hang up, immediately 3 hours on the phone with 11, hang up, back to Odyssey. I would be spending 6+ hours a day just on the phone.
So you mentioned wanting to get married one day.
Yes.
Do you want to get married to one person, two people?
One person. I want to get married to one person. Like, again, that's the reason I don't call myself polyamorous. Okay. It's just because for me, I am romantically monogamous. I can only be in love with one person at a time.
So right now, would you say you're not in love?
Ooh, that's a good question. You called me. I like to say.
I mean, just say anything that will get you in trouble.
No, it's fine. Again, because I communicate, they already know where I'm at and all of that. But it's very much like I love my partners a lot. Am I in love with them? Not at this point, because I'm someone, I feel like love is something that's intentional. It's a choice you make. And so as the structure of the relationships with them as it stands right now, I'm not in a place where I don't think any of us are in a place where going forward to be like, we're primary partners, we're in love, we're gonna make a go of it, because that requires a lot of movement and structure. Because like I was talking about this with 11 recently, because part of their plan is that they want to move to England, and I was just like, oh, that would make you a lot more of a viable long-term partner for me. And so I brought it up. I'm like, what would you say if I decided I wanted to fall in love with you? And they were like, and we just discussed it, what that would look like, what we wanted from each other in that case that happened, and how the structure of the relationship would work. And so, like, I'm not in love currently. I love my partners a lot, though. Not gonna deny that, but not in love currently.
Okay.
But I'm wanting to head in that direction this year.
Okay, so would you say that when you fall in love with someone, then you're gonna have to drop?
No, I don't. I mean, it's going to depend.
If you want to be in love with one person, but you said, you know, you might not be monogamous.
Yes.
But if they're your primary partner and you're in love with one person, would you need someone who was still very understanding where, you know, you could be in bed together at 8 p.m. and you get a call from one of your other partners and you still want to pick that up? Like,
Oh, okay. Well, I think that's something I've really been considering as of late, because when I get a primary partner, I'm like, do I want to keep multiple continuous relationships going like that, or am I wanting something a bit more like what I have with my third partner, where it's casual, we see each other every so often, I think it's pretty low key. So I feel like that is definitely a case that I have been thinking on, but I think as it stands right now, because as I said, right now I'm not in love with my partners. I love them deeply and I care for them amazing, like their happiness, and I care for them so much. Like sometimes I just be like, I'm like their biggest champion, but it's just like I'm someone I compartmentalize very well. And the way I do that is just like everyone has a form and a function. These are the traits you have. These are the things you do. As long as you stay inside this box, we good. As soon as they get outside the box, that's when we have a conversation, because I'm just like, oh, sometimes it's like you're moving in a bad way, but sometimes it's like you're moving in a way that makes me think you want me to fall in love with you. Let's talk about that.
How do you perceive cheating? Is it
cheating for me is like, oh, that's a good question, actually. I feel cheating is the worst thing because I think about the emotional damage, because like I have been cheated on. I've even been cheated on in a relationship that wasn't monogamous, which I thought was crazy. Like imagine how many extra steps you got to do that when you could have just told me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like cheating is just something that's unnecessary as long as you are willing to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Like you have to really... I think, again, part of the reason I say non-monogamy requires you to be really healthy is because you have to be very honest with yourself. You have to be able to look at the dark, the ugly parts of yourself and be like, this is who I am. This is what I'm capable of. Let me not put myself in situations where I could compromise my integrity and my ethics and morals and everything like that. Because, yeah, I don't know, I feel like cheating for me, it just seems like it's such a waste, man. I'm just like, and also usually it's symptom of something else, because a lot of times when you see people cheat, when they talk about it, it's just like, oh, I felt like I was missing something, I felt like the thing, and I'm just like, instead of coming to your partner being like, I have these struggles, I have these issues, you were just like, well, I'm just gonna, and I'm just like, because also generally when it comes to cheating, barring those ones where it's just like, oh, I got drunk and something happened kind of thing, it's just like, it's a series of actions that leads to it. It's never just like, whoop, I'm just in bed with you. It's just like, oh, you start talking to someone more. You know, you're connecting. You're usually it starts with like emotional cheating, where you're just like sharing yourself with someone and you're just like, oh, we get along so well. She's pretty, I like her. And then suddenly, you know, suddenly it happens. But there's so many steps before that, before the cheating. So for me, like when I talked to 11 about like, you know, what would you do if I cheated on you? They were very much just like, it's very much about all those steps before that led you there. Yeah. So I would wonder like, what is wrong in our relationship? Like, what were you not communicating? All these things, because it's not just like, whoops, I just fell on this guy's dick. It's very much just like, you know what I mean? There's so much more that goes into making that decision. Yeah. So it's very much, for me, I'm just like, because it was funny, we were talking about it, and then I got upset. I was like, how would you think I would ever do something like that to you? Like, I wouldn't even talk about this. So I'm just like, very much, it's just like, I don't see the point.
Okay. And it's a deal breaker for you?
Deal breaker, absolutely. Absolutely.
That is so interesting. I feel like that's something that a lot of people wouldn't realize, you know, being non-monogamous, that cheating for you is a deal breaker.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of heteronormative, can you say the word?
Heteronormative.
Yes. A lot of those relationships are actually non-monogamous because people are cheating on each other.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's so funny. I made this TikTok a while back when I was talking about these are things that are actually monogamous. And I had so many people in the comments being like, no, I'm not in a relationship, so I can't be non-monogamous. I'm like, having a roster, having a couple of people, that's still non-monogamy. Yeah. Having like threesomes, going to sex, but doing all these things, it's still non-monogamy. But I feel like a lot of people, it's more the label they don't like. right? Because they like to consider themselves still monogamous even when they're not acting monogamously.
Yeah, I really, really respect, and I for me, trust, openness, vulnerability is everything. Like being able to discuss with your partner in a relationship that even originally started as heteronormative, and being like, do we want to be monogamous forever? Do we want to explore something else? I think that that's a really beautiful thing, as long as you keep it open. And I think that that's actually a lot better than being in a monogamous relationship where people are cheating on each other.
Right.
Like, let's just bring everything to the table.
Literally, let's put everything on the table and figure out what works for us as individuals and as a couple. And when you come at it like that, honestly, for me, that's when I'm just like, ooh, yes, I love this. Because sometimes people can be like, I'm not comfortable with this, this, and this. These are, because obviously you're still going to have boundaries within relationships. Like, I know, like...
what are some of yours?
Some of my boundaries?
Yeah, with your relationships.
I think very much like you need to be honest with me.
Okay.
I think, you know, be very honest and open. And I also, for me, I require consistency. Like I had issues recently with a partner who wasn't being consistent. And it wasn't just one talk. We ended up having a series of conversations about it because they were going through their own things. They were struggling with some things. And I'm like, I understand that. I get that. And I'm going to give you grace in this period. But it's just like, for me personally, you know, it hurts my feelings. It makes me feel hurt. And the more hurt I feel, the more likely it is I'm going to have resentment. And if I resent you, I'm not going to want to date you. It's very much that simple. So for me, my boundaries are mostly around like, if I feel like you do not have space for me, I will remove myself, okay? If you do not create that space for me and make me feel welcome and wanted and desired and validated, I'm not gonna stick around. It's just how that is for me. There's no point. There's no point for me because again, a lot of the reason, like I love the intimacy of these kind of relationships, because you have to put everything on the table, it requires you to be really vulnerable. And because of that vulnerability, it creates an amazing amount of intimacy. Yeah. So for me, if you are not being all those things, like, you know, you're not being honest with me, you're not being communicative, you're not being consistent, all those things that I say create that salad of love, then you're gonna start banging against my boundaries and I'm gonna be like, yo, explain, because I love you enough to talk to you about this. Otherwise, I'm out the door. So let's get on the same page so we can work out. Because if you come to me and you explain, this is what I'm going through right now, and that means I can't be consistent and I can't do this, I'm gonna understand. I get it. Shit happens. That's life. I will give you the space you need. But if you are not communicating with me, oh my God.
Have you faced any judgment or discrimination? How do your family and friends react to the lifestyle you've chosen? So
I have gotten some judgment, especially online. People are just like, oh, so you just a slut. And I'm just like, no, that's not what this is. But at the same time, usually when people comment things like that, I'm just always usually like, I find it amusing.
Because you know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to step out here and prove to you that my relationship is valid. And I think like when you step outside of like what is the societal norms, like you have to be willing to get some of the pushback. You have to be willing to be flexible, because like even within my relationships, they fluctuate. And I feel like, because for me, love is not a static emotion. It goes up and it has its downs, and you have to be willing to weather it throughout everything. And so when people come to me and they're like, I don't approve of this, I don't know, I'm just like, okay, that's your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion, but it doesn't affect me in my life. Continue. My friends are very supportive. They're always just like, every time I meet them, they're like, all right, what's your new story? Tell me what's happening now in your relationships. I'm like, wow, we'll take you out. Obviously, I feel like it is good to have outside opinions on your relationship, just to, sometimes you don't see certain things, you know, you're not seeing the red flags. But in general, I'm very confident in my relationships. I've learned, because another big thing to combat jealousy and insecurity and things like that, you need to be able to trust in yourself and the way you feel and the way you think. Because like, I think it's very easy to just be like, I can't just rely on other people to point me in the right direction, because that's how you end up getting manipulated, how people can take advantage of you. So a big part of like my journey to being healthy was like figuring out, who am I to my very core, because that's the person I'm gonna have to stand on when I make decisions for my life.
Facts. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in exploring non-monogamy for the first time?
I would honestly, my advice would definitely be, focus on yourself first. Focus on what you want, what you're looking for, on your boundaries. Obviously, things will evolve as you know, when it's very different when you're in the relationship versus outside. You can do all these arbitrary things and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to throw this list out the window and start over again, because you also not kind of sure who you're going to be. But I'd say take it slowly. You have to be willing to be so open, so honest with everything you're feeling. I'd say work on yourself first, and then just slowly get one person who's also open. See how that feels for you. Because like, I remember the first time I was in a non-monogamous relationship, it wasn't that smooth. I was figuring out a lot of things and then dealing with like, how do I deal with jealousy and insecurity? Like, I want you to be happy, but at the same time, I'm just like, because again, it's very, very much rewiring your brain, because you see love a certain way as well. And I feel a lot of times people see love as a finite resource. And when you're non-monogamous, you see it the opposite, isn't there's so much love out there, so much to give, that I can just spread it out with a bunch of people. So you also have to when you understand that to a degree, that you realize it doesn't lessen your value in their lives as well. Because you're like, well, they're with her, that means they don't like me as much. No, it doesn't.
That's not it.
It's not it. So I feel like it's very much like, you're gonna mess up. You are absolutely gonna mess up. And I'd say go slow, take your time with it. Have grace with yourself, but as long as you are open, honest, and communicate, you can weather that and you can learn. It's like being non-monogamous was like starting dating all over again. It was like starting from like, you were a teenager making all those dumb mistakes and all that. It's like doing that all over again, but you will learn, you will grow, and it can work.
So tell us exactly where to find you. I know you have your podcast, Aphrodisiac.
Yes.
On Spotify?
It's on Spotify. So Aphrodisiac Uncensored, that's on Spotify. All my social media is Afro_Disiac. You can just find me all over the internet with that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kinza. It was so lovely to speak to you, and I've learned so much, and I hope that people do as well.
Yes, no, honestly, I wouldn't say I wasn't surprised when I got the email. I'm like, you want to hear my story? I'm like, okay.
No, but you have an amazing story, and I think that it's just so important for us to see these non-traditional structures, because at some point I think we all have to really interrogate who benefits from tradition.
Right.
It's not always us.
Because if you've seen over, especially with colonization, what structures looked like before that, it was also very different, very varying of the way things were done. So I like that maybe we're heading back towards that.
Yeah, thank you.